Have you ever thought that a simple banana could put your health at risk? Most people believe bananas are one of the healthiest foods you can eat. They're full of nutrients, packed with potassium, and provide a natural energy boost. But if you're over 70, eating bananas might actually be putting you in danger, and you may not even realize it. Doctors have been warning seniors about this for years, but most people don't know about it until it's too late. In fact, thousands of older adults are rushed to the hospital every year because of a hidden problem with potassium. And the scariest part? They never even saw it coming. Imagine waking up in the morning, feeling fine, going about your daily routine, and then out of nowhere, you feel weak, dizzy, and your heart starts pounding in your chest. Your arms feel heavy. Your breathing becomes shallow. Within seconds, you collapse to the floor. This is exactly what happened to John Thompson, a 72-year-old retiree. For years, John prided himself on eating healthy. He avoided junk food, stayed active, and never missed his morning banana. But what he didn't know was that his daily banana habit was slowly pushing his potassium levels to dangerous heights. At first, the signs were subtle: some mild fatigue, occasional dizziness, and a little muscle weakness. He thought it was just normal aging. After all, everyone gets tired as they grow older, right? But over time, he started noticing more serious symptoms. He would feel his legs cramping up at night, sometimes waking him up from his sleep. He noticed his heartbeat felt strange, like it was skipping beats or racing for no reason. There were moments when he felt an unusual heaviness in his chest, but he brushed it off. Then, one evening, John was sitting in his living room watching television when everything changed. He suddenly felt an intense wave of dizziness. His heart started beating erratically, fast, then slow, then fast again. His arms felt weak and his vision blurred. He tried to call out to his wife, but before he could say a word, he collapsed onto the floor. His wife panicked and immediately called 911. The paramedics arrived within minutes. They checked his vitals, placed him on a stretcher, and rushed him to the hospital. On the way, one of the paramedics said something that left his wife in shock. His potassium levels are way too high. If we don't get this under control, it could be fatal. John had no idea what was happening. How could something he had eaten his entire life suddenly become dangerous? When he woke up in the hospital, his doctor was standing beside him. The look on his face was serious. "Mr. Thompson, you had a severe potassium overload. If your wife hadn't called for help when she did, your heart might have stopped." John was confused. "Potassium? Isn't potassium supposed to be good for you?" The doctor sighed. "That's what most people believe. But after 70, your body changes. Your kidneys slow down, and suddenly, the same foods that were once healthy can become dangerous." John shook his head. He still couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Are you saying my bananas could have caused this?" The doctor nodded. "It's not just bananas, Mr. Thompson. There are several other foods that can silently put seniors at risk, and most people don't find out until they're in the ER. John's mind raced. He had been eating bananas every single day for years. How could something so simple, something he had always thought was healthy, be hurting him? The doctor explained further. As we age, our kidneys don't filter potassium as well as they used to. When potassium builds up in the bloodstream, it can disrupt your heart's electrical signals, leading to irregular heartbeats, muscle weakness, and in extreme cases, cardiac arrest. That's when John realized something terrifying. He had no idea his potassium levels were too high, and he wasn't alone. Every year, thousands of seniors end up in a hospital due to dangerously high potassium levels. And the reason? They had no idea their kidneys could no longer process potassium properly. Could this be happening to you too? If you're over 70, you need to be aware of this. Because if your body can no longer handle potassium the way it used to, even one banana a day could push you toward a life-threatening situation. So, what exactly happens to your body after 70 that makes potassium so dangerous? And what other foods could be secretly harming you without you even knowing? Why bananas become a problem after 70? Most people don't think twice about eating a banana. It's quick, convenient, and packed with nutrients. But what seniors over 70 don't realize is that their bodies process potassium very differently than they did in their younger years. This is exactly what happened to John Thompson. He had been eating bananas for decades without a problem, until suddenly his body could no longer handle them. When John woke up in a hospital, the doctor explained everything to him. As we get older, our kidneys naturally slow down. They don't filter potassium as efficiently as they once did. That means potassium stays in your bloodstream longer, and too much potassium can be dangerous, even deadly. John was confused. I don't understand. I've been eating bananas for years. Why would this happen now? The doctor continued. Your kidneys used to remove excess potassium without any problem. But after 70, that ability starts to decline. When potassium levels get too high, it disrupts your heart's electrical signals. That's why your heartbeat became irregular. If your potassium had gone even higher, your heart could have stopped. John was stunned. Are you telling me that something as simple as eating a banana could have caused this? The doctor nodded. It's not just bananas. There are other foods that are also high in potassium, and when they add up, the risk becomes even greater. John sat in silence, trying to process what he was hearing. He had no idea that his kidneys had changed so much with age. If you're over 70, the same thing could be happening to you right now, and you wouldn't even know it. The problem isn't just bananas. It's the combination of potassium-rich foods that most people eat every day without realizing it. Let's break it down. How much potassium is too much? For most adults, doctors recommend keeping potassium intake below 3,400 milligrams per day for men and 2,600 milligrams for women. But if your kidneys are weaker or struggling, even that amount can be too much. Here's where the real danger comes in. A medium-sized banana contains about 400 milligrams of potassium. An avocado has over 700 milligrams. A baked potato? Nearly 900 milligrams. 1 cup of spinach? Over 800 milligrams. A glass of orange juice? Around 450 milligrams. Now, imagine if you have a banana in the morning, an avocado with lunch, and a potato with dinner. You just consumed nearly 2,000 milligrams of potassium in just 3 meals, without even realizing it. For a healthy adult, that might not be a problem. But for seniors with slower kidney function, that potassium builds up, and when too much potassium stays in the blood, it can lead to a life-threatening condition called hyperkalemia. What is hyperkalemia? Hyperkalemia is the medical term for too much potassium in the bloodstream. And for seniors, this is one of the most dangerous conditions because it often has no warning signs until it's too late. The doctor explained to John, your potassium levels were so high that your heart couldn't keep a normal rhythm. That's why you collapsed. John was shocked. He had never even heard of hyperkalemia before. The doctor continued, most people don't realize they have high potassium until they experience a serious symptom, like irregular heartbeat, muscle weakness, or sudden fatigue. That's why it's so dangerous. You could feel perfectly fine one day and be in the emergency room the next. Early signs of high potassium you should never ignore. If you're over 70, you need to pay attention to these warning signs. They could be your body's way of telling you that your potassium levels are too high. Police scarlight fatigue that won't go away, even after a full night's sleep. Police scarlight weakness or heaviness in your legs. Police scarlight dizziness when standing up. Police scarlight numbness or tingling in your hands and feet. Police scarlight heart palpitations or feeling like your heart is skipping beats. Police scarlight shortness of breath for no reason. Most people ignore these symptoms because they seem small or unimportant. But for seniors, these could be signs that potassium is quietly building up in the blood. And when potassium gets too high, it can cause your heart to stop. That's exactly what almost happened to John. But here's the good news. There are simple steps you can take to lower your potassium levels and protect your heart. How to keep potassium levels safe. The doctor told John, don't have to give up bananas completely. The key is to eat them in moderation and balance them with other foods. If you're over 70, here's what you can do. White heavy checkmark limit high potassium foods. Instead of eating bananas every day, try rotating them with lower potassium fruits like apples or berries. White heavy checkmark drink more water. Staying hydrated helps your kidneys filter out excess potassium. White heavy checkmark eat more fiber-rich foods. Foods like carrots, cabbage, and bell peppers help your body maintain a healthy balance. White heavy check mark, check your medications. Some blood pressure and heart medications can raise potassium levels even more. Always consult your doctor. White heavy check mark, get your potassium levels tested. A simple blood test can tell you if your potassium is too high. John listened carefully. He had never thought about potassium before, but now he realized that what he ate had a direct impact on his heart and overall health. The truth is, as we age, our diets need to change. What worked for you in your 30s, 40s, and 50s might not be safe anymore in your 70s. John had learned his lesson the hard way. Now it's time for you to ask yourself, are you eating too much potassium without realizing it? If you've ever experienced fatigue, dizziness, or irregular heartbeats, it might be time to rethink what's on your plate, because potassium overload doesn't happen overnight. It builds up slowly, day after day, meal after meal, and if your body isn't filtering out the way it used to, it could be silently putting you at risk. So what other foods should seniors be careful of? And what safe alternatives should you be eating instead? The silent danger. Other high potassium foods seniors should avoid. John Thompson never imagined that something as simple as a banana could send him to the hospital. But after his doctor explained how potassium builds up in the body over time, he realized that bananas were just one piece of the puzzle. The doctor sighed and looked at him seriously. John, it's not just the bananas. There are many other foods high in potassium that seniors like you eat every day without realizing the risks. John leaned in, listening carefully. The doctor continued. Most seniors don't track their potassium intake. They think they're eating healthy until it's too late. And by the time they feel the warning signs, their potassium levels are already dangerously high. John felt a chill run down his spine. If he had no idea about bananas, what other foods could be harming him? The doctor took out a notepad and started listing the top high potassium foods that seniors need to limit. 1. Avocados, the healthy food that can be dangerous. John was stunned when the doctor mentioned avocados. Wait, I thought avocados were one of the healthiest foods you could eat? The doctor nodded. They are for younger people, but for seniors, they can be a potassium overload. One medium avocado contains over 700 milligrams of potassium, nearly twice as much as a banana. If you're over 70 and eating avocados regularly, you might be unknowingly pushing your potassium levels into dangerous territory. The solution? Limit avocados to once or twice a week. Instead, choose lower potassium options like cucumbers or bell peppers. 2. Potatoes and sweet potatoes. More potassium than a banana. John's eyes widened. I eat potatoes all the time. Are they really that high in potassium? The doctor nodded. A single baked potato has nearly 900 milligrams of potassium. Sweet potatoes aren't any better. They have around 850 milligrams. For seniors, this is a major concern. Potatoes are a staple food in many diets, but they silently contribute to potassium overload. Safer alternatives. Swap baked potatoes for rice or pasta, which have much lower potassium levels. If you still want to eat potatoes, boil them first. This helps reduce potassium levels. 3. Oranges and orange juice, a hidden potassium bomb. John had always believed oranges were the best source of vitamin C, but he never considered their potassium content. The doctor explained, one orange contains around 250 milligrams of potassium. That doesn't sound like much until you drink a glass of orange juice, which can have up to 500 milligrams. For seniors with kidney problems or high potassium levels, daily orange juice could be making the problem worse. Better choices. Instead of oranges, eat apples or berries, which are lower in potassium. Instead of orange juice, drink water with lemon or herbal tea. 4. Spinach and leafy greens, good for you, but not always safe. John frowned. I always thought spinach was one of the best superfoods. The doctor agreed. It is for people who don't have potassium issues. But 1 cup of spinach has over 800 milligrams of potassium. That's almost as much as a whole potato. Many leafy greens like kale, Swiss chard, and beet greens are also high in potassium. For seniors, eating too many leafy greens every day could be pushing potassium levels dangerously high. A safer alternative? Eat lettuce, cabbage, or bell peppers instead. They provide nutrients without overloading potassium. 5. Beans and lentils, protein with a potassium punch. John had recently switched to plant-based protein because he heard it was healthier, but the doctor warned him about something he didn't expect. Beans, lentils, and chickpeas are extremely high in potassium. 1 cup of cooked beans can have over 700 milligrams of potassium. Many seniors try to eat more beans for protein, but they don't realize that they're also adding huge amounts of potassium to their diet. What's a safer option? Instead of beans, eat lean meats, eggs, or fish. If you want plant-based protein, choose tofu, which has much less potassium. Why this matters? Potassium adds up quickly. John rubbed his forehead. So you're telling me that all of these foods are adding potassium to my diet, and I didn't even know it? The doctor nodded. That's the problem. It's not just one food. It's how they add up throughout the day. Let's say a senior eats a banana for breakfast, 400 milligrams. Avocado toast for lunch, 700 milligrams. A baked potato with dinner, 900 milligrams. A spinach salad, 800 milligrams. A glass of orange juice, 500 milligrams. That's over 3,300 milligrams of potassium, nearly double what some seniors can safely handle. For younger adults, this wouldn't be a problem. Their kidneys would filter out the extra potassium. But for seniors like John, it stays in the bloodstream. And if potassium levels get too high, it can lead to dangerous symptoms, including extreme fatigue, irregular heartbeats or palpitations, tingling or numbness in the hands and feet, muscle weakness, shortness of breath. What can seniors do to stay safe? John took a deep breath. So what should I be eating instead? The doctor smiled. That's the good news. You don't have to give up good food. You just need to make a few smart swaps. Here's what seniors should eat instead of high potassium foods. White heavy checkmark low potassium fruits. Apples, grapes, and berries are great options. White heavy checkmark safer vegetables. Carrots, bell peppers, and cabbage instead of spinach. White heavy checkmark protein choices. Eggs, chicken, fish, and tofu instead of beans. White heavy checkmark carb swaps. Rice or pasta instead of potatoes. White heavy checkmark hydration. Drink plenty of water to help flush excess potassium. John felt relieved. He didn't have to give up food completely. He just needed to be mindful of what he was eating. The doctor handed him a list of low potassium meal ideas. And for the first time in weeks, John felt in control of his health again. But there was still one more thing he needed to know. Because while food is important, there are other daily habits that could be silently raising potassium levels, even without eating high potassium foods. And if seniors don't know about them, they could still be putting their heart at risk. What are these hidden dangers? And how can you protect yourself from them? Hidden dangers. How to protect yourself and safe eating tips for seniors. John Thompson thought he had figured it all out. He now understood that bananas, avocados, potatoes, and certain greens were adding too much potassium to his diet. He had learned which foods to avoid and what to eat instead. But just as he was getting ready to leave the hospital, his doctor stopped him. "John, there's one more thing you need to know," he said. John turned back, feeling uneasy. "What do you mean?" The doctor sighed. "It's not just food that raises potassium levels. There are other factors that could be silently increasing your risk, even if you change your diet." John felt a chill run down his spine. He had spent his entire life thinking he was eating healthy, only to realize he had been making mistakes. And now, there was another hidden danger? What else could be silently affecting potassium levels in seniors? 1. The hidden danger of medications. The doctor walked over to John's medical chart and pointed at a section labeled Current Medications. Some of the medications you're taking could actually be raising your potassium levels without you even knowing it, he explained. John's eyebrows furrowed. But these are all medications my doctor prescribed to help me. How could they be making things worse? The doctor nodded. It's not that the medications are bad. It's that some of them affect how your kidneys process potassium. Certain drugs can slow down kidney function, making it harder for your body to remove excess potassium. The biggest culprits? Blood pressure medications, ACE inhibitors, and ARBs, used for heart health but can increase potassium levels. diuretics, water pills. Some of these actually raise potassium instead of lowering it. Certain painkillers, NSAIDs like ibuprofen and naproxen, these can stress the kidneys and interfere with potassium filtration. Beta blockers, commonly prescribed for heart issues, but they can also raise potassium. John was stunned. He had been taking some of these medications for years and never thought twice about how they might be affecting his potassium levels. So what am I supposed to do? Stop taking them, he asked. The doctor shook his head. No, but you need to have your potassium levels monitored regularly. And you should talk to your doctor about alternatives that don't affect potassium as much. John made a mental note to bring this up at his next appointment, and he couldn't help but wonder how many other seniors were unknowingly putting themselves at risk just because they weren't aware how their medications affected their potassium. 2. Dehydration, the silent trigger for high potassium. John wiped his forehead. Okay, so it's not just food and it's not just medication. What else could be raising my potassium levels? The doctor gave him a knowing look. How much water do you drink every day? John thought about it for a second. Not much. Maybe a few glasses here and there. The doctor nodded. That's another problem. When you don't drink enough water, your kidneys don't function properly. And when your kidneys slow down, potassium stays in your body longer than it should. For seniors, dehydration is a huge risk factor for potassium buildup. Think about it this way. Your kidneys work like a filter. If you don't drink enough water, that filter gets clogged. And when that happens, potassium doesn't get flushed out. It stays in your bloodstream. John sighed. I never realized how important water was for potassium balance. The doctor smiled. Most people don't, but staying hydrated is one of the simplest and most effective ways to keep your potassium levels in check. 3. The danger of hidden potassium in supplements and packaged foods. Just when John thought he had heard it all, the doctor added one last warning. There's one more thing you need to look out for: hidden potassium in supplements and processed foods. John frowned. Hidden potassium? What does that mean? The doctor grabbed a nearby packet of low-sodium salt substitute and pointed at the ingredients list. Look at this, he said. John's eyes widened as he read the label. Potassium chloride? I've seen this in a lot of products. The doctor nodded. Many people switch to low-sodium products to avoid high blood pressure, but what they don't realize is that these products replace sodium with potassium. Common sources of hidden potassium include police scarlite salt substitutes, potassium chloride based. These can add hundreds of mg of potassium per serving. Police scarlite protein shakes and meal replacement drinks. Many are loaded with added potassium. Police scarlite some vitamin supplements. Certain multivitamins and mineral supplements include potassium. Police scarlite canned or processed foods. Some food manufacturers add potassium to improve flavor or shelf life. John sighed. I had no idea I was consuming potassium from so many different sources. The doctor nodded. That's why it's important to always check food labels and talk to your doctor before taking any new supplements. John realized that this wasn't just about bananas anymore. Potassium was hiding in places he had never even considered. 4. The final steps to protect your heart and health. John took a deep breath. So what's the best way to keep my potassium level safe? The doctor smiled. It's simple. Follow these 4 steps, and you'll have nothing to worry about. White heavy checkmark step 1. Limit high potassium foods. Cut back on bananas, avocados, potatoes, and spinach. Stick to low potassium options like apples, berries, and carrots. White heavy checkmark step 2. Stay hydrated. Drink at least 6 to 8 glasses of water per day to help your kidneys flush out excess potassium. White heavy checkmark step 3. Review your medications. Talk to your doctor about how your prescriptions might be affecting your potassium levels. White heavy checkmark step 4. Check labels on everything. Avoid hidden potassium in salt substitutes, processed foods, and supplements. John nodded. I never thought something as small as potassium could make such a big difference in my health. The doctor smiled. Most people don't, until it's too late. But now, you know what to do to protect yourself. As John left the hospital, he felt relieved. He knew that changing his diet and daily habits could help him stay healthy and avoid another emergency. And as he walked out the door, he realized something important. The key to good health isn't just about what you eat. It's about understanding how your body changes over time and making the right choices to stay safe. Final thoughts. Are you at risk? Now it's time for you to ask yourself, could your daily habits be secretly increasing your potassium levels? If you've ever experienced fatigue, dizziness, muscle weakness, or irregular heartbeats, you might want to talk to your doctor about your potassium levels. Remember, potassium is essential, but too much can be deadly. Seniors need to watch their diet, medications, and hydration levels. Making a few simple changes can help protect your heart and overall health. If you found this video helpful, comment 3 below so I know you're still here with me. And don't forget to like and share this video, because every senior deserves to know this life-saving information.